everyone. My name is Mary Forte, and I am a Vistage Chair. I'm here today with AmyK, and we're going to have a leadership discussion, just a small little discussion about leadership and about taking it to the next level. Amy is an award-winning speaker, a best-selling author, a coach, and a master communicator. Amy is all about personal and professional growth. And I love this. And she does it one conversation at a time, which is pretty amazing. So, Amy, I know you've been around for over 25 years. Is that correct? And you have quite a storied career. Could you, before we get in, just jump in a little bit and give us some highlights?
Well, Mary, when I was 2 days old, no, we won't go back that far. We won't go back. We'll keep the highlights. So what's fun about what I've done is that if you'd asked me 25 years ago, would I be doing what I'm doing today? I would have said no, because I was an elementary school teacher.
Amazing.
And I have teaching in my DNA. It's in every cell of my being. And yet is exactly what I'm doing today. I'm teaching. And so I started off as an elementary school teacher. Then I became a teacher trainer. Then I went corporate and became a sales trainer. And then I left corporate and went into sales training and leadership training and development and coaching, and then became this global speaker, which is probably surprises everybody because I was so shy as a little kid that who knew that I would grow up to be like 5,000 people in a convention center, game on. So, but I'm a teacher through and through.
Yeah, well, you could tell you have a passion about it, and it's who you are. So it is your DNA. And I think that's what makes you good. You know, that everybody, if everyone has that, it would be amazing at how good they could be at whatever it is that they decided to do, because it's coming from within.
So true, Mary. It's so true. In fact, I had somebody the other day, they're like, AmyK, like what's like your number one piece of advice? And I said, well, let's talk about energy, but let's also talk about harmony. So many of the leaders, and I was a Vistage member for years, like I bleed teal. I'm just a huge fan of Vistage. And one of the things that I've seen over the years is that the leaders that struggle the most are the ones who aren't aligned with who they really are at their core and what they're doing in the world, what they're leading, where their vision is. So it's often the real world example of, I would have done this, except, I took over my dad's business, or, I would have gone in a different direction, but like I got the golden handcuffs. And so one of the things that I think that you're spot on is the more that you are lit up internally, the bigger the impact on the people that you lead and the better and more brilliant your own life is.
No question about it. And the better results that you will ultimately get. No question about it. Before we jump into some questions, I saw this little tidbit and I just want to read it that someone said about you that I loved. Amy gets results with simple tools and tips that are easy to implement. And the best part is that makes an enormous impact on the business. And, you can't ask for more than that. So, I mean, why, let's get out of the clouds and get into, kind of the tackling, and figure it out as we go, one conversation, one situation at a time.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, and those are very kind words. And I think that it comes back, if we go full circle, to being an elementary school teacher, where you're simplifying it and you're making it approachable. And so I love to hear other speakers. I really do. I read philosophy, I'm into the whole existential pursuit. And all of that is great, but not when you're trying to run a business from the sense of, what do I do with this information?
Right.
How do I turn it into something that's actionable? So what do I say to my people? How do I have that tough performance review, especially when that executive, a leader of leaders is having a hard time? How do I give critical feedback? Or how do I rally people around a new vision in challenging economic times? Or how do I shift the vision without people feeling like, oh my God, here we go again? So these are the tough conversations that I think if you have a practical way to navigate them, life just gets easier.
Absolutely. And consistency is something that you kind of hit on. And I believed in that when I was running the business. You must be consistent. You can't keep changing direction, because then no one knows what the heck is going on. You have to all be rowing in the same direction in order to achieve the results that you want. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, spot on, Mary, spot on.
So with all of this, I put down some questions of things that I'm kind of coming up against with my members. And some of them are universal, so I'm sure it's not going to be anything that you haven't heard. But one that I really didn't have any experience in, because it was COVID, and I had a lot of issues when I was running my business, but never a pandemic.
Right.
So, and we figured out how to deal with a pandemic, and we figured that out with working from home. So, that was great.
Mhm.
And, things got done and businesses went forward, and, you can't ask for more than that. However, now, that things are, somewhat better,
Yep.
hopefully, and, people aren't getting, sick like they did. What do people do? Do they still work from home? What do leaders do? I have one that has everyone that is still working from home, and other people that's somewhat of a hybrid.
Mhm.
But how do you build community? How do you build a team spirit? How do you know about productivity and whether the job is being done? How do you know? How are you oversight? How are they learning? Have you come across this situation with other people?
Never. So no, I haven't had any of these conversations, Mary. So I think let's just take a step back though for a deep breath. And the first thing that I'm going to say is, you as the leader have to use your own discernment with the culture that you've already created that's gotten you here to today, the people that are already on your team, and the needs of those people, because they're contextualized and they're individualized, and everybody's business is a little bit different. I mean,
True.
It's so easy for somebody to be like, well, stay hybrid. And you're like, but we have people on the manufacturing floor that can't do their job in a hybrid situation, right? Or we have somebody who's greeting people that are now back in the office, and you can't be the greeter from home,
Right.
unless you have a beautiful, virtual, screen in your greeting office. But where I come back to is, and this is not rocket science, but it is neuroscience. It's the messaging of, how do we set ourselves up for success so that we win as a culture and our clients win with exceptional service, so that we can still deliver an exceptional product or service offering. And I think that then shifts the conversation, because I take out the factor of, this is a conflict between Mary and AmyK. No, you and I are on the same side, problem solving to ensure that we are delivering a level of excellence so that we can stay in business, so that we can stay profitable. Because at the end of the day, if I can't make payroll, it doesn't matter whether you're hybrid or not, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all.
It doesn't matter. So I like the idea of saying, okay, everybody who's watching this, and I'm not blowing smoke, you're already smart, you're well educated, you're sophisticated, or you wouldn't be watching this video in the first place. So let's just take a common sense step back and say, what does ideal look like for us? And then where can we be flexible? And so again, I'm going to be really controversial when I say this, and I mean this in terms of responding to your employees' needs. And that very myopic perspective, this is where I'm asking this question and saying something provocative. It's not about treating your people equally. It's treating them with equity. And what I mean by that is, we get so caught up in that false narrative of, well, Mary, if I do it for you, then I'm going to have to do it for Timmy down the hall. No, because we're not in fourth grade anymore. So if you say, okay, I'm going to lead, and I'm going to lead my people with equity, and somebody comes to you and says, I'm not comfortable for whatever valid reason, I'm not comfortable being back, then how might we make that work? And somebody who is willing to come back, how might we make that work? And I think that part of also too, in our language, tone and tenor is going to play a huge role. So we were just role playing yesterday on a coaching call, and I was dealing with a gentleman, CEO, running his business. And I said this professionally, don't be a jerk. I said, but lead with a level of confidence that says, this is the decision that we're making today. This is how we're going forward. And if we need to revisit it, if external circumstances change, if the internal circumstances change, we'll shift the game plan. But right now, this is the game plan we're going forward, and I need your buy-in. I need your commitment to this game plan. So what you're saying is, this is the decision that I'm making. I can be flexible down the road, but I'm expecting your buy-in today.
Right. Yeah, because businesses change just like anything else. And, a hard and fast rule one day isn't necessarily what you might want the next day.
Yeah.
And also people's circumstances change.
Well, I think, I
They
mean,
might
there's
be
a lot of
staying
famous
home.
quotes out there about game plans. You can make one and then the universe will laugh at you, right? But you do need one, and you need to confidently be behind it, because okay, so here's the difference. Most of us will go out and say, "Oh, we're going to try this. We'll see how it goes." And then everybody's like, "Well, this is an open season then for critical feedback. I don't have to engage," because you're
Yeah,
wishy-washy from the get-go. So as soon as you say, "Here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it," or you can say, "Here's the thought behind my decision.
correct.
I need your commitment. I'm expecting your commitment, and we'll change the game plan when external or internal circumstances call for it." You sound way more confident and your expectation is higher. So you get
Right,
faster buy-in.
right. I love that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you kind of touched on this a little bit too, and this is kind of a two-parter, but the classic having a tough conversation. We've all been there
Oh, yeah.
multiple times. And it could be with a non-performer.
Yeah.
That's one piece of the question. Or it could be with a performer, but someone who is not a team player.
Oh, never heard that one either.
Yeah, they're interesting because one performs,
Yeah.
but within the organization, terrible, toxic problem. Or another one who means well, everyone loves, but isn't performing.
Correct.
So give me some words of wisdom on that.
So I like to do a framework around a tough conversation that's inviting that person to play. So a lot of times when we go into a tough conversation, depending on the way that it's framed, we can already be like arms crossed defensive because we know what it's going to be about. So the first thing is to set your intention of, what do you really want for this person? So for instance, Mary, let's just say I'm the difficult employee. Like and so if you say, AmyK, we got to talk, right? I'm going to already gird my loins because I know
Right.
what's coming.
Right.
But if you're leading sincerely because you want behavioral change from me, like this is not my third strike and I'm out, right? This is the first conversation of, how might we, and this is your framed question, how might we make you a more integrated, successful team player? Or how might we make you a more integrated, successful leader, just depending on where the position and the context is. And then what's brilliant about it is, I don't believe in what we were all taught in the 1960s management book of the shit sandwich, where I'm going to say something positive, then I'm going to hit you with what I really want, and then I'm going to try to be positive again. We're too sophisticated for that. So
Okay.
what I like to do with the tough conversation is to say, all right, let me frame it in a way that's inclusive, but I'm also going to be transparent. So one of the things that's really important is to recognize people's strengths and their contributions sincerely. And you might say something like, AmyK, you're a top producer, you're an A player, but you're a C team player. And here's the impact of that. Or it could be the reverse. AmyK, everybody loves you. You're a huge contributor to our culture. And that's so meaningful when you do X, Y, and Z, and give a very specific example. And here's what I need from you. Notice what I didn't say, but, because I don't want to negate it. So, and here's
That's
what
right.
I need from you. I need us to get you refocused on some of your performance deliverables. We need to up your game. And so what you're doing is you're recognizing a contribution that's legit. And then you're saying, we got to play a little bit better in this area. And then you're going to turn the conversation back on me and you're going to say, what do you think are your strengths? How might we shore up this skill gap? What are your concerns that are inside of your control and outside of your control? Because now you're removing my ability to point and blame others, because you're saying, okay, AmyK, not everybody's just like, oh, Mary, thank you for that critical feedback. What you often get is resistance, right? Somebody saying, well, it's not my fault. Paul did it, or Joe did it. It's his fault, right? And so what you end up saying is, hey, how might we improve your ability to become a more integrated, successful team player on things that are in your control?
Right.
What are some of your concerns that are outside of your control? And then you put the onus back on me to co-create better behaviors going forward by saying, well, now, what do you think that you might do more of, in addition to, or better, to ensure your success? And now you're putting the onus of responsibility and the critical thinking on me, because here's the difference. If you say to me, AmyK, you should, or AmyK, you need to, and you give me a laundry list of the things that you want me to change, one, it's too long. I can't focus on 5 things. I'm probably likely going to change 1 or 2. And then here's the other thing. If I come up with my own brilliant idea of improving my behavior, I'm much more likely to not turn down my very own good idea. So I love the idea of co-creating and saying, AmyK, what are some things you could do to improve your performance, get you across the finish line? Here's one of my ideas. Let's take these 2 or 3 ideas and let's hold you accountable to the next 30, 60, 90 days.
Absolutely.
And then here's where I get tough. I think you need to have that beautiful, inclusive, co-created future conversation first. And then if I choose not to change my behaviors in 30, 60, 90 days, then I'm choosing to find an opportunity elsewhere.
Right.
But here's the difference. I'm firing myself, and you'll use that language with me to say, now you own this.
That's right.
This is up to you to decide whether you want to go forward and play better. And that's, to me, there's, just to get kind of nerdy for a second, I think that the life that we all desire, the career that we desire, the relationship dynamics that we all desire, whether they're at home or at work, they're on the other side of a tough conversation.
Okay.
And statistically, on average, most leaders wait 6 months to 2 years to have these conversations.
Right.
And on average, they cost between $7,500 and $10,000 on average. And that doesn't even bring into the fact the emotional toll. I mean, think about that conversation that you've been avoiding, let's just say for easy math, 12 months. Not only is it costing you on average, maybe let's say it's 10 grand now, maybe it's more than that. And then the emotional cost of your stress, your anxiety. And then here's the crazy thing. And I've got so many clients that can prove this. You end up firing this person and you knew exactly why you were going to fire them 2 years ago.
Right.
And
oh yeah, they don't change. It doesn't change. And that's what I tell my members, but there's a fear factor that, especially if they're a producer, that they can't replace them, and what are we going to do? Even though the morale and the culture of the company might be at risk because people see that.
Okay. So that's a whole nother workshop. That's a whole nother podcast. But here's the thing that I'll say. One, you have the team that you deserve. And that can feel really good, or that can cause a lot of internal friction because you have the team that you deserve. They are a reflection of your expectations. They're a reflection of your leadership, reflection of your communication. And here's the crazy thing. If you have the team that you deserve, don't you think that you deserve amazing, brilliant team members? And the only way to get them is to have some of these tough conversations. Mm-hmm. And if you're being held hostage by a single employee, then why I say that's a whole nother workshop is there's a lot of other decisions that you're either giving your power away to, and you need to take it back, or you're not making the best decisions because you're scared rather than faith in yourself as the leader. And now this is going to sound like a total plug, but it's not. This is a sincere thing. That's what I loved about when I was a Vistage member. It was putting myself in this group of really smart, strong, capable people who saw the world differently than I see it, who challenged my thinking, who were always saying, well, AmyK, what about this? Or AmyK, what about that? And I realized what I was missing so that I could then go back and make the bigger, better, bolder decision to get my company to grow and scale. And so to me, if you're going to take one gem away from this podcast, am I having the tough conversations to get the team and the company that I deserve?
Absolutely. And they work hard enough. They certainly do deserve it. That's for sure.
They do.
And clearly they care, because they're coming to me with it. And, I'm trying to coach to the overview of what should be done, or, if you took this action, this happens. If you did that, that happens, and the truth is, if you do nothing, then nothing changes.
Well, that's also a decision, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if it's kind of like if you're irritated by the fact that somebody doesn't change and you're not changing the way that you interact with them, you too are not changing, right?
That's right.
It's like one of the things that I think that's also really important too, and I think this is critical for me to say. Sometimes we avoid the tough conversation because we're frightened by the unintended consequence. Mm-hmm. And really that's because we haven't done the prep work to make sure that we can navigate a tough conversation carefully and thoughtfully. And now this is going to sound woo-woo, but I was saying it back in the 1980s when it was really woo-woo, and now it's just sort of common sense. You got to lead with love. You got to go in for connection, even if it's tough love, Even if it's tough love, you have to lead with love and set that intention. Because if you're going to show up and just be a jerk, you're also going to get the lack of the team that you want and the lack of results that you want. But when you can really show up with an intention of, I care about you as an individual. So we were at a Vistage meeting one time. I was the speaker, not the member in this case, I was the speaker. And there was a guy who's like, I just can't get her to change, but she's such a good person. And I said, well, maybe she doesn't belong at your company. I said, maybe she's miserable because she's not aligned with what she's doing. And maybe there's no position in your company for her. So wouldn't you like her to go someplace in the world and be this brilliant, bright, shining light because she feels good about what she's doing? That's leadership. She doesn't have to work for you, but leadership for her would be finding a spot where she can light up the world. And he was like, oh my God, I can have that conversation. And I was like, yes, you can have that conversation.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure people wouldn't naturally think that, but it makes perfect sense. No question. And along those lines, my next one kind of goes together with the fear factor. And that's the fear of, do I belong? Am I good enough?
Yeah.
I'm the CEO, I'm the president. Do I deserve this? I don't know what you want to call it, but that the leader may have that feeling, and maybe that's inhibiting them from making some of these decisions on what to do, because maybe they don't know what to do when all is said and done.
So let's unpack that a little bit, because that's got a lot of layers. So the word deserve is very controversial. So I get a lot of people like, nobody deserves anything on this planet. I'm like, okay, there's that one train of thought. Or you could say that all of us deserve to be respected and loved as an inherent human being, as an inherent soul on the planet, right? And I don't mean religious. I'm not talking religion at all. But just the spiritual aspect of the fact that you're more than just the physical plane, right? We have a spirituality to ourselves. And so when we talk about our inherent self-worth, do I belong here? Well, the imposter syndrome's been around for forever. I was teaching gifted and talented kids in Washington, D.C. in the 80s, and they all suffered from the imposter syndrome. So we're always in that mode of, am I good enough? Do I have enough? Am I worthy enough? And those are internal conversations. That's why I get so lit up about teaching self-leadership, because the stronger your sense of self is, and I'm not talking arrogance, I'm talking self-worth. The stronger your sense of self is, the better you are at leading yourself, the better you are at leading others. And again, it's not arrogance, but it is the idea of, I'm here to serve, and I have an innate talent, and I'm here as a creator on the planet, and I'm here to do amazing things to serve my fellow men and women. And so when I believe in that inherent ability to serve and make a difference on the planet, I play differently.
Right.
The way that I have conversations is different. The way that I have relationship dynamics is different. And so that to me is the transformational experience of, can you get to a place of, I'm worthy enough to make this vision happen, to be in the role of a co-creator and get all of these people to co-create with me and make the world a better place. And that doesn't matter to me whether you're making tequila for my margarita or you're solving the mosquito problem.
Oh no, it's all relative. It doesn't matter to me. Right. It's all relative. And maybe it's a good thing too, that you are self-aware, that you do question, so you'll be better. I mean, yes. you'll
the people who don't question, they're like the C players on the planet. They're the ones that never like, I don't know. They're the ones that are arrogant.
Yes.
If you're questioning all of this stuff, it already means that you're playing a better game.
Right. Absolutely. All right. One other one that's a big issue is the generation thing, where you have people at one age, kind of, I don't know whether they be baby boomers or the generation after, and then you have the millenniums, et cetera, and there is a stress involved with expectations, the different expectations based on the different generations. And it just seems that there's more generations now than there were before. It's like every 2 years it's a new generation. Whereas the baby boomers were about 20 or 30 years that was a baby boomer. So now these generations are coming up fast.
Yeah, we're running out of alphabet letters. So.
It's creating a problem. What's your advice as far as how to deal with that in a corporate or a business environment?
Well, the first thing is that every single generation brings challenges, full stop. And every generation brings solutions. And so we have this protective persona of, my generation's the best, right? Or my generation's amazing. And so what we do is, and then again, I say this professionally, we get very judgy. We're like in that judgy judge of, oh, this is their problem. And yet everybody's different. So if you look at traditionalists prior to baby boomers, traditionalists were those who, just for a quick example, Mary, they didn't want any feedback. Traditionalists were like, your head is down, nobody's speaking to me, I'm flying below the radar, things are good. Like, don't make eye contact with anybody, because then you're going to get in trouble. Baby boomers came along and they're like, oh, I'd like a little feedback. And, I'd like to talk to you once a year. And then my generation, Gen X, came along and we were like, talk to me once a year. I don't want to know that I fumbled the ball in November if I did it in February. Like, I want quarterly reviews. And then it became like, well, now we need coaches. And then now we need everything, to where now, like, even this new Gen Z, they're like, don't leave me a voicemail. I won't listen to it. I don't want a quarterly performance review. Where's my text message? Oh, no, wait, I don't even read text anymore either. Now it's got to be on WhatsApp. And so it's just changing. It doesn't make it bad. It makes
it doesn't. Different. It just makes it different.
It makes it different.
Right. And technology's playing a role in it as well.
Well, in that example, for sure. Huge.
Yes.
But here's the thing. If we start with judgment, then the conversation's going to go awry much faster than if we come with curiosity and say, the world is shifting. What shifts can we make? How can we adapt and make it work? So for instance, I had a conversation with a 24-year-old 2 weeks ago. And she said, I'm willing to work hard, but not at the expense of spending time with my new baby. Right. And so it was like, well, okay, I agree, right? Like, that's not a bad thing. So if her leader comes to her and says, you have to do this because this is the way that we've always done it, that company will not exist down the road.
Right.
And so it's changing that conversation to say, how can we integrate and adapt so that we can shift with a changing world and at least be in an exploratory conversation? And the other thing that's really important too is, and you're going to laugh when I say this, but so much of it is real connectivity. When I can detach myself from that other generation and I'm like, oh, that's the old generation, or those are those young whippersnappers that are wet behind the ears, it makes me not have to play better because I'm detached.
Right.
The minute that I get greater connectivity, and so leaders, this is a chance for you to build real relationships between cross generations in your workforce. The minute that 24-year-old starts to connect with 35-year-old, and then 24 connects with the 60-year-old, and they build real connectivity, then they're less judgment because now they're human to human connectivity.
Yeah, it's so true.
And we need to have those moments. And that's not
you just can't brush it off. First of all, it's not going anywhere.
That's right.
And you have to run a business, and it takes all kinds to do it. But I agree with you. If you come together and you figure out what the needs are on both sides,
we have more in common than we have differences. I mean, that's the end of the day.
No question about it. No question about it. Well, I could go on for days, but unfortunately, we don't have that kind of time right this minute. But let's do it again.
Oh, this is so fun, Mary. This is so fun. I love this stuff. And I so believe in leadership development as an ongoing journey. So thank you so much for having me.
I was thrilled to have you. I love the conversation, and I look forward to the next time.
Thanks so much, Mary. Hugs.
Have a great day.